Hey everyone, Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Bavarian village, Haus C. Now, as you've probably already seen, we have a total of 3 different houses so that you too can make your own little German village. We're going to start off by just simply discussing this little piece here that you cut out. And this is just a little template for this foam core or this foam board. You simply want to place it on top of your foam board, and you can just trace around it, and then using a X-Acto knife or some sort of sharp blade, it could be a box cutter, preferably an X-Acto, something like this. Just go ahead and cut around it. We're going to be using this just to stiffen up the little base that comes with the project. And speaking of the base, we have it right here. So that's what we're going to start with. And we're going to start off by, I like to take this lid piece and fold it back so that I can take and more easily kind of grab this little section here, because we need to connect these 2 little areas together. So I'm going to start by putting glue on this little thin and long triangular tab. Just put a little bit of glue on there and then pop it right behind the neighboring wall. You want to make sure that you get that nice and lined up. And just press and hold that in place. Now once we get all 4 sides glued together, we're going to take and insert this little piece of foam board, and that will make this nice and sturdy. Now it's optional, you don't have to do it, but it is a nice little touch to keep this thing from getting warped and jostled around while you're picking it up. Okay, so I'll move over here to this little triangular tab. There's a total of 4 of these. Go easy on the glue. You don't need a lot here. It's a pretty small little area, and a little bit of glue will go a long way. So you just want to make sure that you get that nice and matched up, lined up, so it's nice and flat right here. And just hold that in place for a few moments, and then we can move over to the other side. And you may want to be a little more patient with these little areas here. Okay, moving right along. Got the next one here. And I'm just going to take this wall, as I'll call it, and just bring it in, press the tab up against the inside of this little section right here. And just hold that for a few moments. There we go. And then finally, we have one left here. Don't rush. I'm kind of getting away with this right now because I am using just the minimal amount of glue necessary. If you put a little more glue on there than I just did, you're probably gonna have to wait a little bit longer for it to set. So just practice getting good coverage and being as sparse as possible with the glue. You don't need a lot. A very thin layer goes a long way. Okay, so just hold that in place. Give it a second. All right, so now you can take this little piece of foam board, and I'm just gonna pop it right inside. It should fit perfectly. If it's not completely flush with the perimeter, it's not the end of the world. And I'm gonna use a nice thin amount of glue here just to hold it in place. Just pop it in. You can see the sticker still on there. That doesn't really matter. Okay, and when you have that in there, you can go ahead and take these tabs and fold them in. Okay, and just keep pressing down. And that's kind of keep these little corners in place as well. Okay, so let's close this up now by applying glue to these 3 tabs. I'm going to do a nice thin little line of glue out to the very edge of this tab so that when we close it up, it'll look nice and seamless. Just like that. And I'm going to take my finger and just literally take it and rub it, spread it right out to the very cliff, very edge of each of those tabs. Okay, so now you can just go ahead and close this up. You want to focus on this side, opposite of the side that's already hinged, and get that lined up first. And having that foam board in there actually helps us a lot. Okay, and then you may need to take and kind of nudge the 2 other sides in a little bit to get them to all line up nicely. And if you have some excess glue, just take a second to kind of rub that off. But you can feel how nice and sturdy that is if you have some foam board. If you don't, it's okay. It'll still work. Okay, check your edges, the seams where the two sections met. Make sure everything's looking nice and flush. And there we go, okay? So that's the bottom now, where we joined all the tabs. You'll notice that the top here has some little markers, and that's just to help you with the placement of the house once we get to that point, okay? But we can put that off to the side, and the next thing we're gonna do is grab the main structures of the house, which is just these two pieces. It's actually very straightforward. And I'm gonna flip it over because we need to add our vellum. We have some vellum pieces on this, and that is to help us with, or to actually, well, when we put our electric tea light in there, it will allow it to shine through with a nice warm glow. Okay, so we just need to lay these out and make sure that we have the correct ones in the correct spot. Now these two windows here that are side by side, we're gonna be using these pieces there. So let's just lay these out so we know where each one goes. Okay, you can see both of those there. Okay, and then we've got one for the front window. Let me take a look and see here. I believe that one's for that. This one's gonna go here. And then we have some other ones too as part of the roof. Actually, there's just one for that. And that's gonna be our back window. And then we have just a tiny one for the dormer window. That's gonna go somewhere, or on the dormer window. That's later on when we put the roof together, but that's how your pieces should be laid out as far as the vellum goes. So let's go ahead and get that applied. Now, I'm just putting it on the inside here to make it easier, also because no one's really gonna be looking inside of this piece once it's done. It's not really supposed to be a box or anything that you use to give a gift. It's more of a decor piece. Okay, and just do some stuff that's simple first and then move on to the main assembly. Well, I guess this is pretty much required that we do it this way because you don't want to try to add these after the house is assembled. This is just so much easier. Okay, so just use little dots around the perimeter of each of the little windows and the door so that we don't have to sit there and wait hours for each of these pieces of vellum to set. And I'm exaggerating when I say hours, but you know what I mean. Sometimes when you overdo it on the glue, you just sit there and wait. It's like watching paint dry. So this process will be far more enjoyable for you once you get a good feel for your glue bottle. Okay. All right, so that's what that should look like. And you'll notice here I've got some little gooeys from the mat that I got to take off. I don't want those blemishing my project. Okay, so as far as all the trim and such, there are some things that we can put on beforehand, but there's other things that we're going to want to wait to put on. For example, these little windows on the side that look like this, we can put those on now. So let's do that. I really like to eliminate as many pieces as possible while everything is flat. Okay, so that can go on now. So let's get those glued on. And again, with this, I'm just using little dots. Typically when you have a little tiny piece like this, that doesn't take up a lot of surface area, just a few little dots will do, and it'll keep them in place nicely. Okay, so we got that one in place. Keep finding the ones that have the little windowsill attached to them. There's a total of 4 of these, one on each, or 2 on each side, I should say. And I tried to do some inking on this, just based on the way that it was designed and cut. It doesn't really lend itself very well to inking, which is okay. But tried to add a splash and a touch of ink here and there. We can put this one on as well. It's not going to interfere with anything. So let's get that in place first. Now this is 2 layers, okay? One layer is this red color, and then the other one is this green color that's gonna go right on top of it to give it sort of a 2-tone effect. Now there's also a little flower basket that we'll be adding to this window, but we'll do that later on once the house is actually all built and dimensional. We'll add that on later so that we don't risk, well, just ripping it off or whatnot before we actually get the structure assembled. Okay, so we'll put that one there. And then there's a green overlay for that. Let's get our glue on that. And this one's a little bit different as far as the order of things, just based on how it was designed. And I know this time around we tried to make this as efficient as possible from the standpoint of paper, so that you're not using too much paper for this. Okay, so that's that. There's actually no trim for the top. We'll leave that alone. Let's flip this over and get the trim on for these 2 windows here. And there's actually nothing for that either. So it's just these 2. And then we're gonna move on to actually building the structure. Okay, and then we can do some panel or trim work once we have this thing dimensional. Okay, here we go. And get that one in place. Now I was actually doing a little bit of research on Bavaria, and being from Poland, you would think I would know a lot more about the area. It turns out that I don't know much about that area, nor do I know much about my homeland. I'm actually starting to look into that more, but I didn't realize that just like the United States, Germany has 16, I believe, states, and Bavaria is the largest. Okay, so we've got that, and I think that's good for now. Let's go ahead and start assembling this actual structure. So you'll notice that we have a large tab here on this side. We're going to apply glue to this, and we're going to join it with the other half of the house. So just like we did with the base, get your glue on that tab, and then take a little bit of that glue and pull it out to the very edge of the tab. And we can put that down flat on our table, and we just want to line it up between these 2 sections here, okay, right here in the center. So line that up with the other one. I know it looks like it's on a slant, and it is, because this house is not square. It's kind of curved a little bit. Okay, so put that down right there, and then you can fold it over onto itself and just press down right on that seam. There we go. Okay, so halfway there. And now we're just going to close it up by putting glue on the other tab that was part of the other half, and throw a little bit of glue right out to the very bottom. Spread that glue out nicely, nice and easy. And I don't know if we can do this flat. I keep forgetting. Yeah, absolutely not. Okay, so you do need to connect this in the air, so to speak. You can't put it down flat like something that was square, because again, this is it's a box sort of, but it's not square. You got different angles on different sides. So just line that up with this section here, obviously. Okay, there we go. And you can actually kind of press down like that just to give it an extra squeeze. Hold that in place for just a moment. That looks good, I think. Now I have a little area here that I probably didn't get the glue out to all the way. So I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of paper, put a little bit of glue right on the corner of it. Just tuck it right into that spot where it's not making very good contact, and press that down and hold it. Give it a little extra love. Could have probably gotten away with just leaving it go, because I've got this tab here that I can glue down, but I want this to really last a long time and look as good as possible. So there we go. Okay, let's fold these tabs down and under so that we can stand this up. okay? And then we got this section up here that we need to put together. And we also have this section here. You'll see that we've got 2 tabs and then this little piece that's going to go right on there. So we can actually glue that down first. Throw a little bit of glue on these 2 tabs. Okay, if you want, you can kind of, this is all structural. It's not going to be visible, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but we do want it to be accurate. And when I say perfect, you don't need to worry about how you apply the glue, and if you spread it out to the edge of the tab, I don't think that's important, because as I said, that's going to be covered up. Okay, so those 2 tabs are in place there. And now on the other side, we've got the same thing. We've got this tab and this tab. So let's get that little flap glued down to these 2 tabs. And I'm just going to kind of spread and thin that glue out and pull that right in up against this little flap. So that first tab is in place, and then we can move over to the other side. Make sure that's nice and flush, and press that down. There we go. Okay, so structural pieces are coming together here. Now we've got this little piece here, and you'll see that there's a little triangular tab there. Let's get that glued down first. Just a nice little dot of glue will do. And then we're going to grab this, and that little triangular tab is going to go on this long part here. I'm going to just tuck that right underneath, up against the back side of this section here. Let me see if I can change the lighting on that a little bit so you can see it better. There you go. On this piece here, that goes right under that, centered. Okay. Now, I'm going to take and glue this strip to this tab here. So let's do that. Okay. And again, this is completely structural. Actually, you know what? That one might be visible. So I am going to, yeah, I think that one is visible. Throw a little bit of glue right out to the edge and pull that glue out to the very, very edge of that tab towards the center of the roof. Okay, and let's pop that right in place, like so. Just like that. There we go. And just give that a few seconds. Mine is not done drying yet. I just spotted a little gap between those 2 sections, but that's totally fine. Okay, and now we're just going to connect this piece to these 3 tabs here. And I think we could probably do this in one shot. Okay, let's take that glue, just kind of dab it, pull it out to the very edge of the tab, like so. And pop that right on there so it's flush with the front. I believe that's the front. I can't really tell, my hand's in the way. That's the back, that's okay. Okay, so let's get that tab in place. Maybe start with the larger tabs on the left and right. Just make sure that those are sitting nice and flush. You can actually put that down on your surface and push down from the inside too, like that. There we go. We'll flip it over, push down. Okay, and don't forget about that little center tab too. I want to make sure that that is in place as well. Okay, wonderful. So that's all done. Now what we can actually do at this point is start putting trim on, okay? And we're going to begin with the side pieces here. And this side piece is going to go like this. There's a thicker section up at the top and a thinner section at the bottom. Okay, so just make sure that the thinner section is down at the bottom. So let's get that on. We're going to start with the sides first, and then we're going to put the front and the back on afterwards. So let's get our glue on the trim pieces. Now, fortunately for me, because I'm using, this is AC Vanilla, this color here, if I get a little bit of glue that seeps out, it will kind of be masked nicely by that color. You won't really see it, but you still want to be careful and don't overuse the glue. Okay, so just make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom and that you have it nice and centered, left and right, like so. There we go. You can actually put that down on your surface if you want. Get your hand in there to press that down. Okay, there we go. There's one side in place. Okay, and next we're going to go over to the other side, find the other piece that looks exactly like that. And again, the thicker part at the top, thinner at the bottom. You can see right here. Okay. And again, nice and flush at the bottom, centered left to right. Now, you may feel with your fingers that this panel piece is actually extending beyond this vanilla piece, like out here this way, but it should only be about a paper, a thickness of paper as far as how far it extends. You know, what we're trying to do is take the brown panels, the trim pieces on both sides, and kind of have them joined together right here. So this part, again, just kind of overlaps just a smidge, a tiny little bit. You may not even notice it, and that's okay. All right, so that's good. Now, we'll head over to the front. Now, there's two pieces that are kind of similar. Obviously, this one has a little door on it, and that's for the back. This is going to be for the front. Okay, so you can see how simple this is as far as the assembly. There's like all the details are kind of all in one place as far as all this trim goes. So this should go relatively quick as far as assembly goes. Now this piece does have a lot of little details on it, so try to move quickly here with your glue. You don't need to get it on every single inch, but I do think it's important to at least get some on every little trim piece here so that it stays put. Okay, I think that's good. And if not, we can always grab a scrap piece of paper and add a little bit of glue wherever necessary. I'm using the little cross on the window as my visual guide for placement. Okay, I've got a little bit of glue that seeped out there, but that's okay. Like I said, I've got that vanilla paper to kind of save my rear end a little bit in case I do get a little sloppy. This is the first house of 3 that I'm putting together from this bundle, so I'm a little rusty. I haven't been in the craft room for a handful of days here, but that looks great. Okay, and then we're gonna have a roof that goes over this, so you're not really gonna see that. And as you can tell here, the very edge, the side and the front really line up nicely, where it's very seamless. You don't even see the vanilla color in between those two sections, which is really nice. Okay, we'll put the rest of, is there any more trim to put on right now? No, there's actually not. Okay, so let's finish this off with the back. And before we put this piece on, I want to put this overlay on top of it. That's going to go nice and centered on this section. And that's just the little door that we use to open and close the house so we can put or turn on, turn off, replace the battery, or put in our little electronic tea light. Okay, so just get a little bit of glue on this, nice and easy. Try to get it out to that little circle up there. And get that nice and centered right on there. Okay, press that down. Perfect. And just like we did before, I'm gonna flip this over and leave it on my table. It is kind of flimsy. And I'm gonna apply my glue while it's flat on my table here. And if you get just enough glue, you don't wanna overdo it, but if you get just enough, it will kind of seep out left and right and hopefully hit the very edge of the structure so everything looks nice and seamless. We can just give it a quick visual inspection once we're done and see if it looks good. And if not, we can always touch it up using that little painting method with a scrap piece of paper. Now, do not put any glue on the actual door. It wouldn't even do anything, but you don't want to weigh it down. Okay, and just line that up. Again, I'm using the little cross on the window as my visual cue, and then take a look at everything else. Make sure it lines up nicely. If it does, you can flip it over and just press that down from the inside. There we go. So you can see this is going to go together pretty quick. Yep, and that looks great on the side there. Perfect. Okay, now one other thing we can do, well, ideally, we would use some Velcro, little Velcro dots that I've used in the past to hold this closed, but if you have a little pop dot, like a flat one, you can just pop it right on there, and that will hold it closed, but it won't be too strong to where it rips the paper. I actually would recommend using a, what's it called, a little Velcro. Let me show you actually on the prototype. You can see there's a little Velcro out there, and there's one here, and you can see how that opens and closes. This is our prototype. Okay, so there she is, mostly done. So moving on here, we're at the point now where we're going to leave the bottom open because we're going to need to get our hand in here to help us with the gluing of the roof. But that's pretty much done. We've got the base done. So let's move on to the roof. Okay. And this is the main part of the roof. We're going to need these three pieces. We're going to assemble that in just a moment. But before we do, we're going to put together the main structure for the dormer window as well as the chimney. Okay, so we're going to grab these pieces here. And where is my chimney cap? There it is. Okay, and we'll need that as well. And I think that's pretty much it for now. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so yeah, let's put together our little dormer window. I've already pre-folded all of my pieces here, and it's pretty straightforward as far as the assembly goes. There are a series of tabs on the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to be using those to actually, well, to join this to this side of the roof. But before we do that, we do need to get this assembled. So let's start off by putting glue on this triangular tab here. And this is all structural. Well, yeah, this is all structural. You're not going to see this because we do have a little roof that's going to go on top of this. So if it's not perfect, it's fine. We just want it to have the correct shape and just be lined up correctly. Okay, these two tabs here, as I fold them forward, these are the tabs we're going to use to hinge this and attach this to the actual structure of the roof. Okay, so we've got a piece here, this little triangular tab. That needs to get glued down to the back side of the roof part of the window. So you can see that tab, tucking it behind the existing top part of the window and pressing it down. This tab here, again, we're going to be using that to anchor it. So we don't need to mess with that yet. This tab as well, not doing anything with this yet. That's going to be used to anchor it, and that just leaves this section here and this little tab right here. We just need to glue this to the back of the left part of the roof of our window. Okay, get that nice and lined up, give it a quick squeeze. Hopefully you're being sparse with the glue so that you're not taking forever in between little sections. Okay, and you can see here, these are the tabs that we're going to be using to, I'll just show you right now. We're going to pop this through, not yet, but it's easier to show right now. And once it's through, you can see how these 5 tabs sit flat on the back of this roof piece. Okay, and that gives us that little dormer window. So we're done with that. Let's put together the chimney. Okay, and it's 4-sided. And just like with the window, the dormer window, we do have these 4 tabs that we're going to be using to anchor it to the roof. Okay, and it's these 4 tabs here. All I did was obviously pre-folded everything and brought it together to create that square shape. This is the top right here. Okay, and really all we need to do is connect 1 tab here to form the main structure, and then we'll put the little top on. Okay, so line that up. You can actually, once you have it lined up, you can kind of squish it down flat because it is a symmetrical piece, and press down right where that tab and the glue is to get that to really stick. Okay, and I'm going to unfold it, and that's where we joined everything. Okay, and again, these tabs here, I'll show you in a second. Let's just put the top on real quick. Okay, so we'll close this up and put a little bit of glue on these 3 tabs. Don't have to be perfect because we can use our fingers to spread that glue out to the very edge of each of those tabs so that when we put this cap on, go ahead and fold it over and make sure it's nice and lined up on all 3 sides here. And then you can actually put this down on your table. And if you have a little dowel, you push down from the inside. Get that to really stick, and then lift it back up and give it any extra little push that may be necessary. Okay, there we go. So there's that part of the chimney. Again, we don't need to do anything with these tabs, and I will show you now, while we have it flat, it's going to go in like this. And again, these tabs are going to get glued to the inside of this structure, and that's going to keep the chimney in place. Okay, so that part's done. Now this is the little cap for our chimney. Let's get that glued into place. I'm going to start off on the side where we have the little the top. If you pretend like this is a pizza box, this is like the top of the pizza box. Okay. So let's put some glue on these 2 little tabs here, closest to the section that has the top of our pizza box, so to speak. Okay, and pull that in. You can actually move these tabs out of the way a little bit if necessary. And I'm going to fold this back and just line that up as accurately as you can and press and hold. And you can actually take the other side and give that a quick press. And then just hold these 2 sections here together until it really sets. Okay. Now if you want to, you can actually put that down on your table and then even use a dowel to press that down. A lot of different ways of getting that accomplished. Okay, and let's go over to the other side where we have 2 more of these little triangular tabs. Just kind of dab them with a tiny bit of glue. And I'm going to spread that glue out with my finger. And then you can bring this piece in. I'm going to move this tab out of the way. And press that up against the tab. And do the same thing on the other side. I can put that down flat on my surface again, like I said. And just use a dowel to really push down on that. It's not going to get all the way into the corner there, but that's what my fingers were for. Perfect. And then take these 3 tabs, fold them in, and we're just making a tiny box. This is what I call, when you're working with little pieces like this, it's almost like you're a surgeon. So we're having a little surgeon moment here. Okay, so let's go ahead and press that down now. We're taking that little pizza lid and bringing it down on top of those 3 tabs. And if necessary, you may need to kind of nudge the sides of the walls in a little bit so everything looks more square. And just hold that down. And there you go. This reminds me of those videos that I've seen on YouTube where people make tiny versions of food, and they even cook it with like tiny ovens and tiny pots and pans. I don't know what that's all about, but sometimes you just can't stop watching it. Okay, so that's done. Now one other thing too, while we have this assembled, there is a piece of vellum that needs to go in here. I don't think it really matters if you put it vertical or horizontal. You're not going to see it from the outside, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you pop it in place and it doesn't move, that's all that really matters. So pop that in there like so. Should have a nice yellow vellum there. And now we're ready to begin putting together the actual structure for our roof. Now you'll notice on these 2 pieces here, there's a little scored area down here, and on this one it's down here. Okay, this is the bottom of the roof. This is where the pitch of the roof is, right here, like this. Okay, and we need to join these two sections together with this piece. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's start off by, and this piece is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if it's this way or that way. Just start off on one side and get your glue on that piece. And I am going to spread that glue out to the very edge. I believe that this part actually is visible from the outside. Okay, so just get that lined up and centered with one side of the roof, doesn't matter which side you start with. And just get that nice and accurately lined up, as accurate as you can be. And you can put that down on your surface, press down from the inside. You can actually flatten this whole thing out if you want, using my palm there. Okay, and there you can see we've got that nice seam there now. And we just need to connect this to the other half. So let's isolate this tab here. And by isolate, I mean fold it so it's not on the same plane as this section. We're kind of pulling it as far away from this section as possible by folding it, so that when we apply our glue and spread it out, it doesn't touch that surface. Okay, so let's go ahead and spread that out like so, and join it up with the other half of the roof. All right, so what I would suggest doing here, now both of these, it doesn't matter, these are identical pieces, so it doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm gonna start by anchoring this to the very top little tab here. So just put a little bit of glue right on there. I'm going to push that out to the very edge, top edge of the tab. And let's just get that lined up. Doesn't matter how you do it. I think this is a good way to do it here, like this, so you can actually see it, get it in there. Okay, maybe not. Let me spread that out so I can get my fingers in there better. And you might want to use a little more glue than usual here, since it's so small. I want to make sure that it sticks. Okay, so just pop that right on there. It's kind of awkward because of its shape, but get that nice and centered. And just press and squeeze until it's set. Okay, and then you can take this and pull one of these sides in, and I just need to glue that so that it's nice and flush with this tab here. Okay, so just like that. So we're going to apply glue, do one at a time here just to make it easier. Go ahead and put your glue on this tab all the way up to the very tip, and I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edge like so. And then we're going to take this, I'm going to get some of that excess glue off my finger, get that nice and lined up, nice and flush all the way up and down the side here. Get that up there and press that down into place like so. If you need to kind of push it in a little bit, that's fine. And there we go. Just keep holding that down until it's set. Okay, perfect. And then we have this little triangular tab down here. You can take that, put a little dot of glue on there, spread that out all the way. We're going to tuck that under. And you can see here that we need it to terminate at this angle here, just like that. So it's kind of, it's almost like a little triangle here at this point. And if it helps, you can put that down on your surface and grab a nice thin dowel and just press that down from the inside like so. It's going to overlap on top of that other tab, and that's fine. Totally fine. And that's what it should look like down there at the bottom. Okay, and then we'll go over to the other side and do the same thing so that it's nice and aligned there. Let's begin with the long tab here. That little cutout that you see up there on the tab is so that we don't obstruct the little cutout on the trim piece on the front. So that is why it looks like that. Otherwise you'd have a little bit of this rust color showing through. We don't want that. So we'll take that and tuck it under behind this trim piece. Make sure it's all nice and lined up. If you have to kind of give that roof a little bit of a push, that's totally fine. There we go. Make sure it's nice and straight, up and down. And just like before, we've got this little tab here that we need to glue down into place. And another way to describe where it needs to go is this edge here on the right side. You're going to push that all the way in until it hits this surface here. Okay, and that should give you a nice little triangle up there, right here at the tip. Okay, so again, I can put that down on my surface and just press down with a dowel. It's so much easier. And just try to make sure that it's nice and lined up with that trim piece. There we go. Okay, just like that. All right, so now with that, this side's gonna be a little bit easier because it already is kind of holding its shape. But I still want to begin by gluing this to the top first. I'm gonna go through the same process. Okay, so just throw a little bit of glue right on that piece there. Spread that glue out. And let's get that nice and lined up, nice and centered. Right onto that section there. Okay, I can actually put that down on our surface once it's got a hold. And I'm just gonna push that down with my dowel. Okay, that looks good. And pull it back and press it. There we go, see? Just a little tiny bit of glue and it's already staying on there. And let's grab, doesn't matter which side we start on, one of the long tabs here. Get your glue on that, and we are gonna take this and spread it out to the very edge of this long tab. And bring that down. Now this is flimsy and flexible enough to where we can move it out of the way to apply our glue onto the other side so that we can just focus on one section at a time. You don't wanna, sometimes when you try to do too much with glue, you end up not really making mistakes, but you kind of can create more work for yourself than necessary, because right now we really need to focus our attention on this section here before we move on. And this is what I mean by this is flimsy enough to where we can move it out of the way and apply our glue to this tab. And we'll take that and spread it out to the very edges. There we go. And just pop that right down onto that surface. Make sure it's nice and aligned. Do your best. There we go. Just try to be consistent with the alignments. That looks pretty good. And that just leaves these two tiny little tabs again, right here. We've got this triangular one that we just need to tuck behind this green section. And I'm just gonna use a piece of paper instead of my finger to spread that glue around. I don't wanna push in there too much and rip the other side. Okay, just get that lined up until it meets and is flush with that little green section there. And my finger's getting in there, just the tip of my finger. That's all you really need. There you go. And we'll go to the other side here. Just a tiny bit of glue. Spread it out, tuck it under, and just get that lined up. If you want, you can certainly put that down on your surface and press down with a dowel. That's fine too. I feel like you get more pounds per square inch of force if you do something like that. Okay, but there it is. Now, one thing we want to keep in mind here is this is actually going to go on like this with the dormer window on the left and the chimney on the right, like this. Okay, with that being said, we want to make sure that, well, I guess you really can't goof this up, but we are going to install these now. So I'm just going to pop them in there. Do one at a time here. We got the chimney in place here, right? And we can flip it around and we can begin putting glue on these tabs. I'm going to start with the top one here. Okay, and I'm going to thin that out a little bit with my finger and then push that up against the inside of the roof here. And I'm kind of just holding it this way so I can see what I'm doing and make sure that it's also nice and centered. Okay, and then go down to the bottom, and you want to flip these in because you got to put glue on what I would call the back side of all these tabs, like so. Okay, and then we'll take them and fold them over. And just do one section at a time here. Just pressing down on the bottom, and then I'm pressing down on the two sides. Okay, and there is our chimney. Still have a little roof that we need to put on here, but that's literally like the last step. So this thing's almost done. It's really not that bad. Okay, same with the dormer window. Let's pop that through the little cutout, and those tabs should be flush against the inside of the roof, like so. Okay, so you can see that. And we'll fold these tabs over. We'll start at the bottom, just like I did with the chimney, and press that down into place, give it a good squeeze. Okay, then we can go to these two top tabs and put a little bit of glue on this tab and this tab, and then just fold those over and press them up against the inside of the roof, like so. Perfect. And then fold these over and put some glue on these two and press that up against the inside of the roof. Now you can see how quickly I'm moving here, and that again is a testament to using the minimal amount of glue required. We don't need a whole ton of glue. Okay, so that's in place. Now there's a couple of trim pieces that we can put on now before we put on the roof. Okay, so this little dormer window, we have this little piece here. This is a trim piece that's going to go on like so. Okay, and what I would do is focus on making sure that the top, where the two roof pieces connect, is nice and flush with the same corresponding section on the actual dormer window. If the bottom of this hangs over a little bit, it's okay, but make sure that this is flush up here and nice and centered as well. Okay, if that hangs over a bit, that's not a problem. Okay, so get that on there nicely. And there is also a small circular trim piece that's going to go on here as well. Okay, give me 1 second here. I'm going to make sure that that is nice and flush. Here is our little circular trim piece. Let me get this center part nice and flush as well. And we'll just throw a few little dots of glue on this guy here, like so. And that's going to go right over this little cutout where the vellum is. So just get that nice and centered there. Perfect. Boy, I could see little, what's it called? Just little wreaths maybe above the window. Okay, we also have these little trim pieces here that go on the side, like so. Okay, so we need to get those glued into place. You can see where those go. So I'm just going to leave this kind of on its side like this, and I'm going to use just little dots of glue here, just tiny little dots. Don't need a whole heck of a lot. Okay, and what is that thing? Got some kind of a weird bug in here. But there's always weird bugs in here, actually. Okay, so just make sure that that is nice and flush with the top so that the roof doesn't have any issues going on. Okay, should look like that from the side, That looks great. We'll flip it over here and grab the other side and glue that down. Again, just using a series of little dots on this trim piece. You know, less surface area, less glue. That's always a good rule of thumb. And line that up, match it up, make sure it's flush with this section here, right here. Hold that down. And then we can start putting together the actual roof piece. I'll give that a few seconds. All right, so let's grab all of these pieces here. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually start with the bottom and work our way up. Now each side, because of the various features that we have, they're going to require various parts of this roof. These two pieces are going to go right on the bottom. Okay, there's a little piece that goes right on the bottom. So I'm going to put one on this side and one on this side. And I'm just going to kind of go through and just make sure that we have the right pieces for each section. Now I've already taken and folded all of these at the score marks. We're actually going to, these are kind of like the shingles. They're going to be kind of pointing out. This is going to get glued on. This folded section, the thinner part, is not going to get glued out. Now this obviously will not fit over the dormer window, so this is going to go right about here, okay? And we're going to do these in a specific order, but we do want to sort these so that we're sure we have the right piece in the right place, okay? And this guy here, this is going to go, let me keep this on the same side. This is for the dormer window. Okay, this one here, you can see how thin that is. That's going on the roof, or I'm sorry, on the side with the chimney. And then we have a series of these, like this, that have no cutouts. Let's just put them all together for now, so we can decide how many we need to put on which side. Okay, and let me check something out real quick here. Yeah, those are all the same size. Now this one, obviously, this one here is obviously going to go with the side with the dormer window. This one here, because of the width, is with the dormer window. This is also with the dormer window because we have that little pitch. And then we have this one here. This little guy obviously goes with our chimney. And I thought there was one more that had a minor, nope. Okay, so that being said, we've got 3 sections here. Let me move this out of the way. We've got 3 pieces here on the chimney side with this piece. And then we have this piece, 1, 2, and then this is considered, let me bring this down so you can see it. This is considered a full piece, okay, which leaves 3, we have 6 left, so we'll take 3 of these, put them on that side, take 3, put them on that side. Okay, so we should have a total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each side. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed. All right, so it doesn't matter where we start. We can start on either side. This piece here, each of these has one. It's just to kind of thicken it up and keep everything consistent. So we're going to glue that down first at the bottom, and then we're going to work our way up. Okay, because the roof, you'll notice, has a series of score marks to help you with the placement of each of these, well, shingles, I guess you can call them. Make sure that's nice and centered and nice and flush at the bottom, and just press that down. Okay. Now, the first piece on the dormer window side is going to be a straight piece like this, no cutouts on it whatsoever. And you'll see here, there's a series of little score marks, and what we want to do is just literally glue this on and butt this piece up, the top of this piece up to those little score marks. Okay, so that's where the first section is going to go. So let's go ahead and get our glue on this piece here. The most important thing about this is just making sure that you're getting glue out to the very edges on the left and right so that it sits nice and flush. Okay, so let's do that. Get the first piece in place, lining it up with those little score marks. And then I'm going to give this a little bit of a nudge left or right just to make sure that it stays nice and centered. Okay, and try not to, like I said, I pre-folded these. The idea is to try to keep these as flat as possible So try not to touch them too much and warp them. Okay, and again, I'm focusing my attention here on the very ends to make sure that that's nice and flush on the front and back. Okay, so that looks great. Excuse me. And the next one is also going to be a straight piece here. All right, so let's grab another solid piece. And my camera cut out. I had to hit record again, which is why you probably see a little bit of dried glue on here. So don't worry about that. And we're going to line this up with the next little set of score lines. Okay, get that nice and centered. I'm going to butt it right up against that set of score lines there. Okay, press that down. Make sure it's nice and flush on the sides, like right here. Okay, and back here. Looks good. Dormer window is going to be on the left. So this side is a little more important since we're going to see it on the front. I want to make sure that's nice and flush there. Perfect. Okay, so those were just two straight sides. Now we're going to find this piece here where most of it is cut away. Okay, and that's going to go on like this, and we want to bring that all the way up until we butt that up against the next set of score marks. Okay, so it's a very simple process. Just want to make sure that you have the right pieces. Well, aside from that, it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, again, making sure that we're getting that glue out to the very edge. We want that to be nice and seamless and flush. Okay, and grab that. You have to kind of make sure the window's in the center. And it's a little wobbly. That's probably the most challenging one to get in place. And I have a little bit of glue that shot out there. So I'm just going to take my X-Acto and just rub that off before it dries. There we go. That looks great. Perfect. Okay, so you can see what's happening here, and then again, focus on the very ends here to make sure that they're nice and flush. And if they're not, just take a little piece of scrap paper and just tuck a little bit of glue in between that section there and press and hold that until it is. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, that looks great. Moving on here. Now the next section is the section that requires the two separate pieces. Okay, so we're going to do one at a time here, and it's going to get glued on like this, just like that. Let's just do the left side first. Throw a little bit of glue on there. Again, making sure we get that glue out to the very edge. Okay, and pop that in place. Again, you should have those score marks there. That helps you with the positioning, just like that. And I'm going to focus here on the side. Give that a little bit of a press. There we go. We'll grab the other half and get that glued into place. Rub that glue out. Okay, and again, use those little score marks to guide you. There we go. And I'm just working on the very edge there. Okay, perfect. All right, so now moving on, we can grab this piece that just has the little pitch of the roof cut out of it. And again, lining it up with the next set of score marks. That final piece, all we're going to do is just line that up with the pitch of the roof, the very top. Okay, and again, spreading that glue out to the very edges, popping it in place, using those little score marks as our guide. Nice and centered. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to press down here, the very edge. Wonderful. Okay, I'm actually going to pull these down a little bit We don't want them pointing up. We want them kind of pointing down a bit so that they look kind of like that. Okay, and of course the last one here, as I mentioned, that's going to go flush with the very top like so. So we do want to put glue on this whole thing here, and we'll want to make sure we have some glue at the very top to make this all look nice and seamless at the top as well as on the sides. Okay, so the process for the other side is going to be pretty much the same. We just have to be conscious and aware of which pieces we're grabbing, which pieces we're using at which time, just to make sure that everything matches up correctly. Okay, but that's pretty much it for this side. And you can see how nice that looks. Now, while we have this here, you can take and glue the little roof in place like so. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just put some glue on top here. It doesn't need to be covered completely. It's more or less just like a structural thing, just to make sure that it stays in place. I had a little bit of glue on there. I'm just scraping it off. Take it and fold it and push it as far back as it'll go, and then just press down onto that surface of the dormer window. And there you have it. Okay. All right, wonderful. So let's move on to the other side now. And again, we're going to start at the bottom. So we just need this little piece here. Let's get our glue flowing. Don't forget to get it out to the very edge. I want that to be nice and flush. And there we go. So I was actually pretty little, and I don't remember much of it, but my parents, we're from Poland, I'm sure many of you know that, actually left and fled Poland while a lot of crazy things were going on there. I'll tell you more here in a second. Okay, so the first one here on the chimney side is just going to be a solid piece with no cutouts, just like this one. So same process here. Get your glue on there, make sure you get it out to the very end as well. But yeah, you know, Poland was, and I'm learning more about this as I get older, but Poland was going through, well, they were under socialist control, and my parents didn't really like that, so they fled, and my dad came to the States to build a new life for us, and my mom and I kind of followed him. It took a while, but we actually lived in Austria for a number of, well, maybe it was a number of months, while we made our way to the U.S. to see him again. We stayed at a refugee camp, actually. So it was, don't remember much of it, but I do remember little bits and pieces of it. I was probably about 2 or 3 when that happened. All right, so next section here. And get that glue out to the very edges there. So yeah, it was strange being separated from my dad, and finally made it to the U.S. and reunited with them, and now here we are today. So I think Dad did pretty good. It was yeah, I'm learning a lot more about it, and it's not something that I would ever want to live through as an adult. Okay. All right, so that's that. Now, you'll notice that, let me see here, make sure I've got the right piece. Yeah, so next we need this piece here with the tiny little cutout at the top. That's going to go up like this. Okay, so let's do that. But yeah, supposedly I've been watching some documentaries on what was going on, and you know, people didn't have enough food to eat. Everything was being kind of controlled by the government, and you know, it was, they were like losing their freedoms. And Dad didn't like that. Really into, you know, I mean, I run a business now, so of course, you know, I really believe in capitalism, and I think that does breed innovation, and it's also very fulfilling I guess I'm not as much of an artist as, like, say, Ron, who our art director, art director Ron, he's quite the artist. I'm an artist in different ways with my photography and my video, but, you know, I think this country is wonderful and gives you the opportunity to do these things. All right, so next we're going to grab this piece where it's really cut up a lot, and we're going to slide that over the chimney. And again, you've got little score marks there, so use those as your guide. And you know what, I think last time, oh no, there's actually no area to put glue on for this small little section. So just get the glue on the large section here. Get that glue out to the edges as we've been doing, and slide that up around the chimney and line that up with the score marks there. Make sure it's nice and straight. And again, focus on the edges here, make sure it's nice and flush. So yeah, it was kind of a wild childhood. You know, kind of gives you an idea of all the stuff going on in the world right now. But it's not time to talk about that because we are crafting. But I did just want to share that, you know, I lived in Austria for a little while. And supposedly I actually spoke German for a little while too. Just kind of always thought that was kind of ironic. But yeah, I don't remember how to speak German. I still speak a little Polish though. I'm actually thinking about maybe getting better at it. It was strange, you know, being a Polish immigrant, moving to the States. It really felt out of place, especially because I had to learn the language. You know, I don't know, it's kind of almost, as a kid, you wanted to fit in. So it was a little, almost embarrassing to, you know, not be an American, I guess. But at the time, I didn't really realize that there's no such thing, really. I mean, we all immigrated for the most part, except for, you know, the indigenous people that are already here. But I guess we're all immigrants, and I didn't really realize that. But anyway, glad to be here, I'll tell you that. I do need to go visit my grandma. All right, so the last one here, make sure that, well, you know what? I forgot to put a little bit of glue right up at the top because I was blabbing. This is why I try not to blab too much, because I lose focus. Okay, and that one's going to go nice and flush right up to the top. Nice and flush at the top, just like so. Okay, and then I'm going to take a look at this from the front and the back, and just make sure that, you know, everything, all these little shingles are nice and flush up against the front. This is going to be my front. That looks pretty good, actually. So that's that, and that's going to go right on top, like so. And now you'll notice also that there are a series of little score marks here. They're vertical score marks, and that's just to help you with the centering. I think you could pretty much eyeball it, okay? But to get this glued down and into place, yeah, I think we're ready to do that now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to do. No, that's it. So go ahead and throw a little bit of glue up at the top. Now, this is all structural, so we just need glue on here. It doesn't need to be pretty. Throw a little bit of glue on this section, and this section, and then just a little bit here as well. Okay. And remember, this is the front, okay? And we want the chimney to be on the right-hand side. So it needs to go on like this, okay? I'll pop that on, and you can kind of see, let me see if I can see it. Yep, I can see the little score mark there to help me with the placement to make sure that it's centered. I'll pop that right on there. And you can take a look at it from this vantage point too to see if you have it nice and centered, and that looks perfect to me. So I'm gonna roll with that. Okay, there she is, beautiful. I'm gonna let that set for a minute while we kind of assemble a few little pieces here. This little section here is a little well, it's a little flower basket. And we've got, I already folded it in. You'll see that there are 2 tabs on one side, 2 tabs on the other side, and we're just gonna put some glue on those and just go ahead and just press them up against the long part here. Okay, very small little piece, so go easy on the glue. Okay, and just tuck that behind this long wall, or this long end or side, whatever you want to call it. Technically, it's the front or the back of our little flower basket. And while I'm holding this down, I'm just getting the next tab ready. And we'll tuck that behind and press and hold that in place. Give that a few seconds. Don't overdo it on the glue again. Now what I was going to do, what I actually am going to do with this is I'm going to cut out a little bit of styrofoam, put it in there, and I have these tiny little flowers that I'm going to add to this. They're the same little tiny flowers that we used in the little flower carts from, oh boy, I can't remember the name of the bundle. It was our French-inspired bundle. Okay, and just press those up against those tabs there to get them to connect nicely to form this little flower box. Okay, I might do that off camera and show you the end result here in a minute before we get it glued on. If you do that, you may want to use hot glue. That's up to you. All right, we also have this little piece here. This is our little stone doorstep. Okay, so I already have it folded. Just go ahead and fold everything in, and just like we did with the little flower box, we have 4 little tabs. Okay, I'm going to do 2 at a time here. Just put some glue on those, spread it out nicely, and then fold that in. I'm going to move this tab out of the way. Fold it in and press and hold on one side, and then do the same thing on the other side. It's a small piece, but again, because it's small, it's not going to take long for it to set, and you don't need a lot of glue. Okay, so here we have 2 more little triangular tabs. Throw a little bit of glue on there, and just give that a little dab, and fold that in. Press those tabs up against the inside of the adjacent wall, and do the same thing on the other side here. Give that a nice firm press, and it should stick. Okay, then we can take these 3 tabs, like so, and just throw a little bit of glue on these. I'm going a little bit heavier here because I'm going to take and spread that glue out, like so, and then we can close it up like a little box. Here we go, and line it up with the side opposite of the side that was already hinged first. And if you need to kind of nudge the walls in a bit, now is the time. You can put that down on your surface. And I did kind of ink this a little bit to make it look a little rough, because I don't care how much you power wash it, your stairs are never going to be perfect and super clean all the time. Okay, now one other thing too I forgot to mention, we do have this little cap for the chimney. Okay, so we can actually glue that down. You can see it from that angle there. Just take it, and I'm going to put that side up. Just get it centered. In the past, and in this project, we're going to do the same thing. We've used little cotton balls to create the illusion of a little smoke coming out. And the way you accomplish that is by just taking it, a little bit, and my fingers are kind of sticky right now, but just taking it, and you can twist it to kind of form a little point like that, or you can get even craftier and just kind of pull on it, maybe in like 2 little sections. Okay, so I kind of made a boo-boo, but I did put a little note at the beginning of the video to save you from doing the same thing. But what we need to do is we actually need to assemble this as one piece. Okay, so during the entire video you saw that I had my door in place already, but that is incorrect. What we need to do is, first off, we need to glue this down onto this piece here that has the dimensional little awning built into it. So let's do that first. Let's get that glued down. And I'm just kind of using the little cross here on this piece as my guide for placement, like so. So we'll get that into place. And then there's this little red square. Let me clean this off for it. Makes this too messy here. And you'll notice that on this piece there are some little markers there to help you with the centering. And there's also a little marker for the door handle, which is this tiny little circle. Now in place of the circle, if you want to use a little rhinestone or a pearl, that's fine too. We've actually provided a paper version of it this time. A lot of times we use little embellishments for this sort of thing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and fold it. We're going to take these two tabs and glue them to this piece here. So let's start off with that. Oh, some kind of a bug in my studio here, hanging out. It's a good place to hang out, I'd say. Okay, so throw a little bit of glue on this tab, tuck it in, and you want this to line up like so. This is looking at it from the top. Get that nice and lined up and press that down. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So flip this tab over. You gotta put glue on the back side of it, like so, and then we'll take that and press it up against the top part, the inside part of the roof of this little awning, just like that. So now it's dimensional, and we're going to take this and glue it to these little tabs here to bring it down and keep it in place. So throw a little bit of glue there, and I'm going to throw a little bit of glue here, like so, and bring that down, tuck those tabs in, and press that up against the inside of our little awning. There we go. Same thing on the other side. There we go. Clever little piece, I'd say. And there we have it. Okay, so now all that's left to do is glue this down, and I'm going to glue it on top of my previous one, and that's okay. You're not going to be able to tell because I'll get it right on there. Okay, so let's just do that, and then we can call it a day. All right, so we'll get glue on this entire back part of our door. A little bit in the center there, a little bit right there. And again, I goofed up, but it just goes to show that because it's the same shape, same size, same everything, I can just pop that right over my goof up and you won't even know the difference. And if anything, it actually gives it a little bit more dimension, which is kind of cool. Okay, so that's that. There we go. Now at this point, what we can do is just put the bottom on this. Okay, so I'm going to actually anchor this to the front first. So let's get our glue on this tab. I'm not really going to see this all that much, but it will help keep it nice and rigid. Okay, just line that up with that tab there. Okay, now we can take this and flip it, apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs. And this just makes it easier to glue down to the base once all said and done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it up. I'm not really overly concerned with spreading that glue out. This is ultimately just going to be hidden anyway. Just want to make sure that it's nice and in place, like so. Here we go. Beautiful. That looks great. Okay, so there we have it. And then we'll take this piece, and you can see there are little score marks there. And that's to help us with the positioning. So we can go ahead and put our glue on this entire bottom and this is where I'm going to take and spread that glue out to the very edges. I don't want it kind of poking up on any of the sides here. So I'm going to spread that out nice and thin all the way to the edges. Okay, and then we're going to take and make sure that you have the front facing you, and you want to leave a little bit of room in the front here. So use those little markers to help you with the positioning. Get that in place. You can push down. You can actually open up the back door and push down from the inside. We do have, well, some of you may not have that little foam core in there, which really gives you the ability to press this down. Okay, let's close that up. And now all that's left to do, still have to put my little flowers in here, which I'll do in a second. But we have this little step, and that's going to go right underneath the door, like so. So we can just throw a little bit of glue on the bottom here. And you want to push that up against the structure of the house, like tuck it underneath the door, and then press that down into place. So as you can see here, I took a little bit of foam and just kind of cut it to size, popped it in there. I've got these little flowers. They're pre-made. Now obviously you can just go into your stash of floral, find something that might work. It could be pretty much anything, just little tiny little flowers that you can put in there. And I'm going to actually hot glue this because I don't think regular glue is going to hold this very well, at least not initially. So I'll hot glue that, and you want to do the same you want to glue that right to the same colored little windowsill area right there, just like that. And that's really going to do it. Aside from that, don't forget to add your little smoke if you want. And that's really it. So hope you guys enjoyed the assembly video. If you did, please head over to YouTube and consider hitting that subscribe button. While you're there, there's a little bell. If you click on that, you'll get notifications anytime we release a new video. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Group, or you can just type in this little URL here at the bottom. It'll take you right there. So I'm going to wrap up my little flowers here, but as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where we have over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly videos. I look forward to crafting with you soon.